Okay, hello everyone. Today is Wednesday, July the 5th, and we are continuing in our study of A Course in Miracles. We're in chapter 3, The Innocent Perception. We're in section 1, Atonement Without Sacrifice, and we will be exploring paragraph 5 today. So let's just kind of step back for a second and get ourselves prepared for today's study. I'll begin in prayer if you don't mind, Harriet, and you can close us out in prayer. Is that okay?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. Let's just center ourselves, become aligned in creation. Allow us to imagine our feet grounded into the soil. Be grounded like roots running through, and imagine ourselves extending up, 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 tall like a sequoia tree, with our branches extended into the air. Imagine ourselves totally in alignment with our roots and our branches, all flowing in direction of creation. And as we allow ourselves to be filled with this truth, we see that we are completely one with all that there is. All nature, all love, all light, all things that we call negative and all things that we call positive. We abandon all such labels and see it only from the perspective of creation. And as we allow ourselves to see this and to be this and to feel this and to know this, we realize that as we read these words and read this paragraph today, that we are opening ourselves up to an understanding, to a truth that holds us safe, gives us confidence, allows us to apply our thoughts and our voice in the direction of wholeness. Wholeness brings truth, it brings love, and it brings light. And for those things, we are grateful. We have so much gratitude that we are filled with the abundance of good. And with that, we release all good into not only our physical beings, which are our temples and our chalices, our containers for creation, but also into our environment, our homes, our communities, our neighborhoods, our nation, and this world. And with that, we say, and so it is.
And so it is.
Okay, Harriet, would you like to begin?
I can, yes. Give me a second. Hello, everybody. And as was stated, we are in chapter 3, section 1, and I will begin reading at paragraph 5. I have been correctly referred to as the Lamb of God who taketh away the sins of the world. But those who represent the Lamb as bloodstained do not understand the meaning of the symbol. Correctly understood, it is a very simple symbol that speaks of my innocence. The lion and the lamb lying down together symbolize that strength and innocence are not in conflict, but naturally live in peace. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, is another way of saying the same thing. A pure mind knows the truth, and this is its strength. It does not confuse destruction with innocence, because it associates innocence with strength, not with weakness. I have been correctly referred to as the Lamb of God who taketh away the sins of the world. But those who represent the Lamb as bloodstained do not understand the meaning of the symbol. And we must remember that this course was channeled through Helen Schuckman, and she is channeling the voice of Jesus. And it is he who is speaking to us as we go through this text. And I
also
think
that she was a psychologist.
right.
Yeah, so that really helps in understanding that, that we are changing our minds.
Right. Yes.
Or healing, not changing, healing our minds. I guess is a better word. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And what I started to say is that, and I think it would be a good idea to combine sentence 1 and 2. Correctly understood, it is a very simple symbol that speaks of my innocence. And what Jesus is saying to us there is, we all know that he was born of a virgin. So his conception was not like the normal human being, or like most human beings, or all other human beings, better way to put it. And having been born of an immaculate conception, to me, it just makes sense that he is the perfect person to look up to pattern our lives after. And he went through everything that we as human beings go through in our lives. He suffered from being misunderstood. He showed anger. I mean, everything, every emotion, everything that we as humans go through, he went through it. And what we as his followers need to do is look at how he handled these different situations and attempt to and ask for the strength to pattern our lives the way he did in doing what we do, and in other words, be like him. We're not always successful, but at the same time, we are forgiven for our mistakes, because he calls errors that we make mistakes or errors. He does not call them, he does not look on them as sins, as he is speaking through this course.
Mm-hmm. And when we look at this first sentence, but those who represent the lamb as bloodstained do not understand the meaning of the symbol. I think because well, the blood is, the blood is so very in that
it's a life, it's a life, it's a life stream.
But because the symbol is so very important in Christianity, you see that bloodletting as a supreme sacrifice, as opposed to seeing that it's kind of like a transfusion. you know, so we don't
Yeah.
necessarily, we shouldn't necessarily see the blood. You know what I'm saying? Yes,
Yeah.
the blood is valuable, but just like in a transfusion, you know, there's not just blood all over the operating room. You know, you just don't smear blood all over top of, you know, the patient for healing. You know, the blood is inserted into that person to boost its life.
Mhm.
And when we are seeing the lamb as innocence, a lot of times we have been, you know, we don't necessarily, we see innocence, but we don't see innocence as, we don't see the value of the innocence.
Right.
It's important, yeah, because, you know, it's an innocent little lamb and blah, 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 but that is kind of like lost in the sauce. It's not as, it ends up being not as important as the blood itself. And if we are, and you know, when we are misunderstanding just that symbol of the Lamb of God who taketh away the sins of the world, we are putting the focus more so on the sin as opposed to the Lamb.
Mhm.
And you know, I can only speak for myself and the way I have understood it from either being in different Bible classes or just hearing other Christians talk. You know, we pay so much attention to sin that we don't pay as much attention to innocence.
Mhm.
You know, and that we are being that the transfused, that you know, the blood is the transfusion that takes the sins away. We're still clinging on to a concept of sin because, you know, sin is so much more sexier than innocence. You know, when you talk about sin, you know, you got all of these you know, juicy tidbits of gossip, you know, but when we're talking about innocence, you know,
It's
kind of,
boring.
yeah, and very bland.
Mhm.
And blandness becomes, we have this concept of weakness, you know, because people take advantage of the innocent all the time, especially
Yes,
now.
they do. Yes.
Well, one
Definitely.
time people used to have more
Empathy.
empathy, yes, for the innocent. Now, people have almost a disdain and a contempt for innocence, you know.
And we
So
wonder,
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and we wonder why things are the way they are. And it's for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can call. Did you want to try to call? Oh, I was going to say, did you want to try to call Richard? But he's coming in now.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, yeah. And so I think, I think that, that first sentence, that kind of can stand alone for me, because I still think that most people don't understand that whole concept of the blood. Like in metaphysics, blood doesn't even count. Nobody even talks about the blood. I mean, we talk about Jesus and how Jesus is our perfect example, but in metaphysics, Jesus is basically a regular human being, a guy who happened to have got it. Who happens to have got it. Whereas in Christianity, and especially the more traditional Christianity, Jesus is divine, and that's why we need the blood. And I think that, us being able to relate to innocence as strength is the thing that where that whole concept of, the blood, the blood-stained lamb comes from. Because, when you even, of course, I had never seen a that type of lamb slaughtering sacrifice, so I don't, I can't even gather up a picture in my mind as to what it really looks like, But when but I have seen people do blood transfusions before. I have seen that happen. So, so I do understand that, you get this bag of blood and it goes directly into your vein. And that's the thing that cleanses out all of the impurities. The new blood either adds in to give you a boost of life that is failing, or it cleanses the whatever the dis-ease is in the body.
You said something that kind of triggered a thought, or it triggered a reminder. Before modern medicine, one of the ways that people were treated years and years ago, and it's not that long ago, I would say maybe 100 or less years ago, one of the ways that people who were ill was treated, they did what they call bloodletting. And what they when you look at medicine, like I said, before modern medicine and the ability to transfuse, or in other words, take blood from one body and put it into another, what they would do is they were doing what they call balancing the humors. Now, what that meant, I don't remember, but it was kind of balancing the humors or the ill health that was going on within the body. And so bloodletting was a way of getting rid of whatever diseases were in the body at the time. Trying to bring everything back into balance as far as the physical body was concerned.
Yeah. Hey, Richard, how you doing? We're just on number 1.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm a little magical right now. I got a crush on somebody, and Spirit told me that that's a move I should make. So I'm just kind of like thinking a little bit right now. You know what I'm saying?
Well, lucky for you.
It's a grown it's a grown man crush. It's a grown man crush. So
yeah, that's good.
And what's wrong with that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you a grown man, right?
yeah, boy. Boy, you see me walk around with her? Yeah, I'm a grown. I'm a super grown man. That girl is bad. All right, sorry. Good. Sorry. Okay, so you say y'all just on the first verse?
The first,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what I think, that when we have become too overly committed to religion, or a one religious symbol, without looking at it in any kind of depth. This is, they say that this is what this means, and this is all that means. I think that as we mature spiritually, we still have to continue to see things in more ways than just one.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And that also reminds me, you also reminded me of something that I came across in doing my research for the chakras. Yeah, I found it very interesting. In the chakras, each one has deities that are kind of, I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, but anyway, of the deities associated with the heart chakra, the chakra of love, which is what the Course in Miracles is all about. There was only all the deities that were listed as heart chakra deities were female except one. And that one was Jesus. He was the only male, and he was listed as he's shown as the highest of the deities. He is the supreme deity as far as the heart chakra is concerned. I just found that rather interesting.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And we also kind of included number 2, sentence 2, correctly understood. It is a very simple symbol that speaks of my innocence. And I think that people have gotten away from just symbols. That this thing it symbolizes something. It doesn't mean that that's what it is. And so it's not a literal interpretation. It's symbolic.
Symbolic, yeah.
And I think that when we have only, when we combine, the Jesus movies, along with whatever, Bible story we've heard, Reverend Bishop so-and-so say, and, and our grandparents and all of those things, when we combine all of those things together, and we're no longer speaking symbolically, but we're using the terms we're using symbolic terms as fact. And I think that this is one of the things that is telling us is that, when we're speaking of the lamb, let's just instead of using lamb, let's just use the word innocence. And then we will understand that we're talking of, innocence, purity. That's the value that we are trying to bring back into our conscious thoughts. And, and then it doesn't have to seem as if it's coming from the outside in,
Mm-hmm.
It will,
Right.
it is, it's from the inside out.
Mm. Agreed.
Anybody else's thoughts on 2?
Let me read it again. Correctly understood, it is a very simple symbol that speaks of my innocence. And in that particular statement, a very simple symbol, he could be talking about the lamb, or he could be talking about, it could be, we can look at it as being the lamb or the blood. I tend to look at it as being the lamb, because the lamb is something that that we can all, I think, relate to. A lamb is a young sheep. A lamb is innocent. But at the same time, that lamb is going to grow into a full-grown sheep. And all the lessons that they learn as they go from one stage of life to the next are lessons that they're going to take with them as they go along. And with some of those lessons, I think how do I want to put this? The innocence of some of the innocence of childhood, it's good that we can take it with us and not become so hardened as we as time passes.
How about you, Richard?
I was thinking about what you were saying, Harriet, and as I look at it, I think for me, it's clear that when they're talking about a simple symbol, that they're referring to the lamb rather than the blood stain, only because it's the representation of the lamb that people see as blood stain, and then he goes into the next section. It goes back into the lion and the lamb. So I agree with you in terms of that sort of interconnection. What I do find interesting, and just putting together the first and the second, is that it's becoming very clear that the role that man has in terms of the symbols that we look to, and how easy it is for us to create an agenda that accompanies the symbol that then can cause us to misinterpret the symbol. And generationally, talk about the lamb. Like, I've always been interested and keyed up on this idea of the lamb when people talk about it in terms of Jesus, because I don't hear people talk about it in terms of the innocence of Jesus as being a strength. They talk about it in terms of crucifixion, sacrifice, right? Which we talked about a couple of weeks ago. So I'm really intrigued by what's to come out of some of the other verses and our conversations that come from it as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off of what both of you are saying is that when we think about hold on a second. Hey, Darla, I'm in my class. Okay, bye-bye. There you go. Okay. Just to piggyback off what you all are saying is when we think about the blood, because we can't think about the lamb without thinking about the blood. Those two things go together. I think that just seeing the lamb experiencing blood in such it's always very graphic and always very fearful. And when we think about innocence being fearfully put upon, you have to damage you have to damage the lamb in order to get the blood. And as opposed to because that's the thing that we see, like you said, Richard, we see crucifixion, but when we understand that that really didn't hold, what we classify, and because we have been told and taught, and it has been our experience that we are sacrificing something when we are sharing blood or leaving blood or getting something, to do with blood. And we have been, we are having that experience. We're only seeing it as sacrifice, that there is some type of loss for some type of gain. And then you have to be very, beholding to this, to the thing that gave you the blood, that gave you the life. And when we think about when we think about that part really isn't any of our business. it's so far above our pay grade. And yeah, it's great that, we have an understanding of it, but it really is so far above what we think that we have created agendas that have come out of it. We have created religions and toxicity really, has come from it, because it is such a big thing to understand that, so now not only do I owe Jesus, I owe you too. And not only do I owe you in time or money or whatever you say I owe you. So so that can become a bigger rabbit hole, and it can so we do have to back it back up so that we're not seeing it as literal, but we are seeing it only as symbolic.
Right. And that's really difficult to do with that's really difficult to do with some folks, because the Bible is literal.
Yeah.
They take it literal. So I feel you.
We want to move on to number 3.
Yeah,
Richard, would you like
sure.
to read
I'll read
that?
it. The lion and the lamb lying down together symbolize that strength and innocence are not in conflict, but naturally live in peace.
Mm.
And that's something that so many people fail to see, I think.
Yeah.
The harmony of strength and innocence, because it takes a lot of strength to how do I want to put this? It takes a lot of strength to hold your tongue when somebody has said something that you might be offended by, or that is an untruth about you. And I often say, you pick and choose your battles. Is it worth the energy that I'm going to spend to get into an argument with this person over something that they have said, or to try? And I mean, if they have said an untruth about you, the way you live will very quickly discredit whatever untruth they have said about you. So why bother, why spend your energy arguing with somebody?
I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's the way that I'm on. And I think there's something interesting about when I read this, the lion and the lamb, I'm initially drawn less to outside people, but internally, we have a lion on one side and we have a lamb on the other. And that it just makes me think about how even within ourselves, we have to reconcile with this notion that we can be innocent and we can also have strength, and they don't have to be in conflict with each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when we are, innocence is strength. The purer of something is the strongest it is.
Exactly.
It's we have through I guess humanity has shown strength, power, and authority having to do with control over others, as opposed to control over ourselves. When you see, and I'm gonna talk about Harry and Meghan for a minute, because I finished watching them on TikTok. When we think about the strength that it takes to in your truth, to stand up in your truth, and although you are hated for just being truthful, no other reason other than that, you know, you're hated just simply for being truthful. That's where your innocence can really stand strong, because you can stand firm in understanding what truth is, and that I am innocent in this. And when you are strong, you can say, okay, what you are saying, what you are doing is wrong, and you know that it's wrong, and you know that, and you know why you're doing wrong, and we can be honest within ourselves and be satisfied within ourselves, and we don't have to have that inner conflict. We can sleep good at night, where somebody else who's, you know, is having a difficulty with being forthright, truthful, you know, they can, you know, they have a hard time sleeping because they got to always try to figure out what's the next thing that's going to make me look good. Whereas, you know, when we are simply strong in our own truth, and we can stand in our own truth, you know, we can say the same truth over and over and over and over again, where, you know, it's hard to remember that lie that you said back 15 years ago. You know, so, you know.
Yeah, but somebody's going to remember that lie. And if you contradict it, they're going to bring it up to you too.
Right, you know, and I think that's where society has shifted and changed, like traditional Christianity, when that first came into being. Just like, you know, we've been talking recently about, you know, the Gnostics, you know, the Arians lost, so the Arians became the Gnostics, and the Etruscans won. So that, you know, that's where that whole idea of Christianity came from. So, you know, whatever they said is true now, and that's the thing that we have to, when I say we, I mean, you know, those of us who have been brought up into Christianity, we have had to side with whatever that is, however it is explained. So, and sometimes it's difficult because it's not necessarily built on facts. It can be built simply on a misunderstanding, or a purposeful misunderstanding, a misleading. It can be built on some other thing outside of the truth. And when you do find out the truth, like I think the Course in Miracles is try to lead us back to truth, you know, that can be very challenging, simply because, you know, now I have to, you know, people are thinking that we're trying to debunk an idea. Well, I'm not debunking the idea. I'm just expanding it into a further realm of explanation. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be as literal as we're trying to take it. It can be, let's look at it symbolically first, as opposed to literally. I know that was a lot, so I'm gonna be quiet now. I hope y'all got what I was saying though.
I did.
I did too.
Because first of all, what I see as far as this group, what we're doing is we all, I think all of us within the group, those present and those as well as those absent, were brought up in the Christian faith. We were taught the way our parents and grandparents and those generations before them were taught. But we are becoming more enlightened because of our curiosity and our understanding, and I would say basically our love of history, because when you're taught something and the person that's doing the teaching is trying to control you, they will make you believe that whatever it is they're saying is the truth and nothing but the truth. And that's the way it is, and that's the way it always will be, and it will never change. But because we are willing to look beyond, and especially with this Course in Miracles, look at love, unconditional love, we're able to look at people, just like just before I came on here, the news was on, and they were talking about DeSantis and Trump and their disdain for LGBTQ people. And I have always believed that whether it doesn't matter whether it's your race, your sexual orientation, or whatever it is that makes you so disliked or hated by all of the rest of society, God has put people like that on this planet to teach us tolerance and love. And therefore, and when we learn that lesson, the problems that so many seem to use to look down, or the things that so many seem to use to look down their noses at those of us that are not normal or different, the sooner, a majority of the populace or people can come to that kind of understanding, the less problems we're going to have.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of, if I can piggyback off of you for a second, I think that kind of blends in with something that Richard said earlier, that, people do see the Bible as being literal.
Mm-hmm.
And because we so cherry pick things, because, you don't necessarily always find that part in scripture that says, God made people different so that we can learn to love one another. That's not, you don't necessarily find that, but we do find, we do find things in scripture that says, hate what I hate and love what I love. So if we're basing something based on what somebody else's fear is, based on what, if they have found this in scripture and then they put this line up, this one sentence, and they connect it to another sentence all along with their sermon, to voice their agenda, then that's the thing that we're going to, we're going to catch that fear, because fear is contagious, the same way love is contagious. And, all of our emotions, because we are connected, we catch it.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's contagious.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that just learning how to accept innocence as strength and not seeing everything so separated. And I think that that's one of the things that for me, metaphysics does. It teaches me how everything is in one. So for me to stop looking at everything as separated and from expecting something to happen from the outside in, but to see things that happen from the inside out.
Exactly. And one of the things that I have, or a conclusion that I have kind of come to is, and I'm not going to say it's really a conclusion, but I have come to realize, I'll put it, that's a better way of putting it, is that when I read the Gospels in the New Testament, which is basically about the life of Jesus, and I look at what is here in the Course in Miracles, I see a lot of, what do I want, how do I want to turn this? I see a lot of, I don't want to say contradictions, but debunking, I think, of some of the things that were being taught by those people that we read about in the Old Testament, those prophets and the incidences and all that happened during that time period. And I think the other important thing too is to keep in mind that society and people, their lifestyle changes as time passes because of new things going on, things being invented, things being, in other words, change is going to take place no matter what. And as time progresses, the more things change.
Mhm. What about you, Richard? What are your thoughts?
I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say because I've been just sitting here agreeing with everything that y'all said. Um, like just sitting here listening to y'all, and I realized that I just realized I hadn't unmuted. But no, I think everything that y'all are saying is absolutely correct. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. There's also something that I'll add to Harriet, what you were just saying, and that is, and Penelope, I think you were saying this earlier too, is that how people cherry pick, and they cherry pick all these different verses, but there's one verse. There's one verse, and I can't remember exactly where it is, but Jesus says, when I think it's the disciples come to him and say, teacher, which of these, commandments are the ones where we should follow? And he said, the commandment that's above anything, the commandments that are above any and everything else is to love God with all your heart, with all your might, and to love, and the second part is to love each other as you love yourself, period. Everything else in the Old Testament that came before that, and even after that, he's already said it. And
Exactly.
so
And
we
even
can't
that,
even get those right.
and even that whole idea of loving God and loving yourself and loving your neighbor as yourself, that I've seen that even in the Old Testament.
Right.
But the Old Testament is so full of wars and battles and killings and assassinations, and what is one of the 10 Commandments? Thou shalt not kill.
Right.
But that's all they're doing throughout the Old Testament. You see it happening in the New Testament, but not the way it is in the Old Testament.
Right.
And I think that's that when it comes to us taking things literally, because to be honest, I have not. There's Leviticus. I've never read Leviticus, not all of it. I've never read all of Numbers. And I think that most people are like me. They haven't read the whole book. They might have read smidgens of parts of it, but yet we think that we're an authority on something just because we read it, and just because we read it in English, we think that we know everything about it. But as we continue to grow and understand that, we everything that is so spiritual it's not like math. 1 + 1 will equal 2 in math, but in spirituality, 1 will equals all of the numbers. And so how do we and in order to understand that, we really have to go deep down within. We really have to go within to say, and that's why individuality is really important. And I think that, we just have to learn how, not to judge, because we really don't have enough information. We don't have enough information to judge anything or anybody. The
Right.
information that we have is very, very, insufficient.
Limited. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, as far as the Bible is concerned, I think that if you can, if you have the time, if you have and when I say the time, because when I read things, nonfiction, I don't just read the text. I read the footnotes and will probably do some other research. And now with in electronics, it's easier to look something up as I'm reading. So I get through things a little bit faster. But what I'm trying to say is, we have to remember that this book that we call the Bible is not the Word of God. It is God inspired by those men who wrote it. And why were some of those inspirational words and experiences left out of this Bible?
Yeah. There's a passage in the Bible that actually I was telling somebody just recently. I said, I disagree. I think what y'all keep talking about, this is the Word of God. And I think you're looking at the wrong thing. Jesus is the Word of God manifested into human form.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so rather than following the law of the land of this book, using this book as the law of the land, you're supposed to be just following the consciousness of Jesus, not worshiping him. Jesus is big brother.
That's right. Exactly.
That we supposed to follow in his footsteps, to use his example, Christ consciousness. I agree with it. I like it.
Pattern ourselves after him.
Right.
Well, he says that we are him and he is us. And
yes,
for some odd reason, we still don't want to believe that. We don't want to believe that. You can't, if you walk up to somebody and you say that I am Christ, they're ready to, commit you or punch you or something. They're definitely
you. That's blasphemy.
That's blasphemy. So, and that's my thing, is either you believe what he says or you don't, and I think that because we have been so addicted to our traditions, whatever that is, and we are not allowing ourselves this, I really like this way that it's talking about, the symbols. These things are symbols. They're not, it's not literal. It's symbolic. It symbolizes that thing. And more, especially the more and more I'm studying Kabbalah, I'm understanding that, one of the letters, I can't think of which one it is, but one of the letters is a ram, which is a sheep. So we might not even be talking about we might be just talking about one letter, but that symbolizes something. But because we don't have enough information to understand not only this this symbol, but there's a whole nother culture attached to this that understands it better, if we would allow ourselves to just look at something else for a minute, just you don't have to agree with it, you don't have to be a part of it, you don't have to subscribe to it, but just look at it.
Exactly. And I feel the same way, because I think that if you read the for lack of a better term, the holy books of some of the other philosophies or religions, if you boil all of them down to maybe a paragraph or a couple of sentences, they are all basically saying the same thing. Love, 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 and love unconditionally.
Yeah. And that's all we're supposed to be doing. We, ain't no sense of us sitting around and trying to say, what love looks like. I can't justify what love looks like because I don't have that. I haven't seen love in all of its forms yet.
Mhm.
Do you want to move on to number 4?
Okay. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, is another way of saying the same thing.
And this is one of the things that I find in this chapter is because we are using so much of scripture, to qualify what the the whole idea of sacrifice. I'm sorry, the whole idea of atonement. That we're using so many biblical phrases,
passages.
Yeah, and they are just describing them in a different way. Like this one, it says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God," is another way of saying the same thing. Yeah. When we are totally innocent, and that's the thing. That's where we're supposed to be getting back to. That's the truth that we are getting to. That's the perfection that these individual containers should be striving for, because deep down inside, the spirit that is within us is perfect. It's our minds and the way we feel and the way we filter our thoughts that are out of alignment. That might not make us pure, because there's so many different directions that I might think of something. I might think 100% wholly, have deep down in my heart, this is true. But it's not necessary. It's based on misguided information. So yeah, in my heart, I think that it's pure because that's the thing that I believe. But if it's based on miscalculation or error or some other thing, then I'm still not pure in heart. So, and I'm still not living in innocence, and I'm probably not allowing love in. So I think that the more we challenge ourselves just to be innocent, just to be pure, outside of our own personal thoughts, just to meditate on purity and allow that thing to express itself through us.
That's tough.
But that was my thoughts on 4.
Yeah, well, I say it, and I think what you say is real. It resonates with me. It's just challenging ourselves to be innocent is tough when we equate innocence with weakness.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But however, in verse 5, or should I go forward?
You can.
In verse 5, it says, "A pure mind knows the truth, and this is its strength."
Wow.
And I think a lot of people, I think all of us at some level knows the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It might, we might not want to face it. We might want to disagree with it because it has not been, logically, that's not the principle that we want to believe in. But if we, I think all of us know the truth. I was watching something. It wasn't on TikTok. I know y'all can't believe that, but it was something that I can't remember. It was some type of documentary, and they were talking and how it was saying that a purely psychotic person is very, very rare, because everybody, most people understand right from wrong. That's why they hide. We hide when we're doing wrong, because we really don't feel that we don't want, we understand that, if we get caught, we get caught doing wrong. We're not getting caught doing right. We're getting caught doing wrong. And I think that when we really investigate and try to foster a pure mind, for one thing, it's gonna, really shut you down. You're gonna stop saying so much. You're gonna stop acting so much. You're gonna stop moving around so much, because you're allowing your mind to be pure, and that takes a lot, I think, of energy.
Mhm.
Yeah, a couple of things I'll say in response to that is, I'm not sure if everybody knows the truth. I think everybody has access to the truth.
Oh yeah.
I think the knowing is where, in order to know it, you've got to have a pure mind. And I fear that there's not. I would like. I'm a fan of seeing more pure minds in the world. Um, and I think that's part of the issue too. Is the well, in tandem with that, I'm also thinking that part of the issue revolves around right and wrong, and that there are some things that, rape, murder, you know, rape especially, like there's no equivocation to the wrongness of that. But when you look at some of these other things, like, okay, well, this woman was murdered. Well, we found out later that she was murdered in self-defense. Okay, is that right or wrong? Like, I'm continuing to. I was informed just recently of being careful of how we perpetuate this idea of right and wrongness, because it might be wrong in my eyes, but it was right for somebody else. If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect
This
sense.
chapter is called The Innocent Perception.
Right.
How are we perceiving? Are we perceiving innocent?
Mhm.
And really, what is that? Because there have been certain places and times in history where the law has allowed you to rape, and
Right.
the law will back you up and say that yes, you were justified in that.
Right.
And there are times in in history or in the world where, but still deep down, and even if the law is saying that, you can, in if your empathy system is going to kick in, or usually does, you might push it back. You might, what you call it, when you trample down on it, you might try to stamp it in so that you're not affected by it. But usually empathy shows, lets you know that you're not in the right here. I don't care what the law says. You're not right. You're wrong. You don't feel good. You don't feel good about this. And I think that it's very, I do, I'm gonna have to find out whatever that documentary was again. I do feel that is, really true, because very seldom do you have people that are, you got people who do a rampage type of thing, but they usually try to run and hide. It's very few people that go in there, the guy who shot at the movie theater. He went in there, shot at the movie theater, and walked on out. Let them put handcuffs on him. So at some point in time in our I think in our psyche, and this is why I think that where A Course in Miracles is so valuable, because it does help us reach depth into our psyches to find out, why is this shaped this way for me? Why do I believe this? And let me switch the language around so that I can understand it from a different vantage point, where I think that a lot of times, especially when you're, addicted to the one thing that it doesn't allow you to look at things from different perspectives.
Right.
And that's why I feel it's so important for us to try and at least try to not dismiss, but to listen to another's perspective, another's point of view. And when I say another, I mean another religious philosophy. Because, like I said, it to me, they all boil down to one thing: love yourself, love God, love yourself, and love your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
But they just all, how do I want to say? They all have a different way of practicing showing that love. They all have a different way, and I mean, to me, we recently had a discussion or a presentation, more or less, from those that consider themselves Gnostics. And once I heard what they had to say, it dawned on me at that point: hey, Harriet, you're a Gnostic. And because I don't embrace everything that every one of those different philosophies that I have read, and I'm not going to say I studied them, but I have read some of their teachings. But those parts of it that ascribe to that basic unconditional love of God, myself, and others, it just lets me know, and I should have no reason to hate another person. And like I've been saying lately, God put people here on this planet, put things on this planet to teach us how to be tolerant and how to use the things that he has placed on this planet with some kind of well, the best way I can put it is use them in moderation and not use them to the point where it makes us sick or diseased.
I'm sorry, I had to step out and check on Wazian.
Oh, that's okay.
Still here?
No, because I mean, when we look back in history, the Europeans came here, and the first major thing that they did to bring money into the colony was to grow tobacco. And who did they learn it from? They learned it from the Native Americans that were here at the time. Native Americans used tobacco for medicinal and ceremonial purposes. The Europeans came here and began to use it for recreational purposes. And that's where we got in trouble.
Well, I think that, just like anywhere else in history, to the victor goes the spoils,
Mhm.
and that's where, what we have been talking about is to love your neighbor the way that we love ourselves. I think we just don't love ourselves. So we are loving our neighbors the way we love ourselves. We don't,
right.
So if I don't love you, I don't love my neighbor, I don't love God. especially if this is something that, is going to happen to me in the sweet by and by, and I don't know whether it's really going to happen or not because I've never seen it or just always heard about it. I might not believe, but I can use it as power and control.
Mhm.
So it I think that it's so individual. That's one of the things I do like about the Baptists. Now I do like about the Baptists more so that because they are really big on having a personal relationship,
Mhm.
with Jesus. Where Jesus is, far more important than say God, which is weird. But anyway, I digress
Oh,
there.
because Jesus was a man that walked the earth. We think about God as somebody up there in the sky somewhere.
Right. Yeah. So, the unseen, so
Right.
when we are allowing ourselves to be that pure in heart, that's the thing that's unseen. Oh, wow. This is really a great conversation, y'all. That's the thing that's unseen. So that's the thing that I should be uh you know um strengthening, growing. I should grow. That's the thing that I need to grow in. I don't need to grow in the thing that is seen. I need to grow in the thing that's unseen. And that's everything that Jesus said. That's all of his
Mhm.
teachings is that.
Mhm.
The kingdom of heaven is within.
Mhm.
I had I had an argument. It was a real live argument with somebody about that one day, you know, because they were telling me their views, but they didn't want to hear my views. And then now here we are, over talking one another down behind something that you don't want to get it. And
Right.
you just don't want to get it. And everybody's just not gonna want to get it. And we got to get that. We got to understand, we got to let them be whoever they are.
And that's one of those situations that you just walk away from.
But sometimes you can't because it is so big. Like you say, the Europeans came and they were recreational with the tobacco. So you can't just walk away from. You have to live within it. You have to get to this point of acceptance. But although that still is not, you recognize the truth, that they know the truth, but you know, there we, that's where that part of innocence looks like weakness comes from.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
Wow, I'm glad, look, I was, when I first came in, I was feeling, kind of like tired, physically tired. But this conversation right here is really boosting
It's giving
my
you the
physical
energy that
energy.
you needed.
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah,
Good,
it really
good,
is.
good.
It really is. I think that was all me talking. Did y'all did y'all did y'all
No,
already
we
say
talk.
something?
Yeah. hmm
Okay.
Yeah,
Do we
and we on the last verse now, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay, I'll read it. Um, it does not confuse destruction with innocence because it associates innocence with strength, not with weaknesses. Not with weakness.
And they're talking about a
And
pure mind.
yep,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
a pure mind knows the truth. It doesn't confuse destruction with innocence. It associates innocence with strength.
Mm-hmm. So that's how we
Wow.
walk on water, y'all.
Wow.
This is exactly how we walk on water. We
Mhm.
have, we begin to nurture our minds so that our minds are pure, completely innocent.
Mhm. Mhm.
Then the world is subject to us. It has to be subjected to us because then we will we will perceive the real illusion because we will be in the truth. Now, ain't that some stuff right there?
Wow.
That's a red pill right there. That's the red pill.
Wow.
Well, to live a life of innocence, to me, sounds like a really big ego death.
Yeah. Yes.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm, mhm.
Yes.
Somebody's at my door. Let me see. Okay, I'll keep going. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And maybe, Harriet, that's kind of like where people have a difficult time accepting somebody that's different
This 526
because,
Yeah, this is
because
526.
they are actually
I just
living
need
they're actually living their innocence.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
I just need your first initial and last name typed in there for me.
Well, I can't. I was gonna say I was gonna put his thing on mute, but I can't find my screen, so I'm not gonna worry about it. So what are
Can't
your
find
thoughts,
what?
Harriet, on this?
It does not confuse.
One of those things where if it's a bit
It-
depending on what's inside.
I think that's a good way to actually summarize everything that we have been saying today, because what we're looking at is, and I think the important point that was being made here throughout this paragraph is that innocence and strength are partners.
Yes.
They are partners, and the sooner we realize that or come to that realization, the sooner we come to that realization, the smoother I think we'll be able to transit this life on this planet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that it says it does not confuse destruction with innocence, because that in itself is kind of, I don't know, confused, because innocence does destroy your old form of thinking, you know? So, but I'm not, I guess I'm not afraid of the destruction. I'm not afraid that this tower, the lightning bolt is hitting it. The lightning bolt is hitting this tower.
Okay.
And it's going to upend all of that rigidity, you know. I'm not going to, and I'm not stagnant here anymore.
Right. And
Right. I think.
No, go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, in that case, I would, my mind goes to, instead of thinking about the loss or the destruction of something, it's more about what's being built up, which seems to be wrapped around strength more than sort of, loss or weakness. So that's and that's also how I've started to look at the Tower card now too.
Because it's all
and
the
all of
same
the
thing.
exactly ten of swords, same thing. Like it is you could focus on the ending or you could focus on the beginning.
And one needs the other.
Right.
So it's like an elevation, an evolution, a growth, because and one holds on to the next, just like you said, in order to really be strong, you have to be innocent. Just when we look at our laws, when you go to court, your innocence should be able to shine through, as opposed to which lawyer tells the better side of the story, or which or which judge is palmed and then the palms is green reads the judge's palm enough, all of those things, but when you're really, but even in those times, that the innocence of it still shines through. you know, because they always leave that, you know, there's always some evidence. I was then this is something else, and I think that this probably came off of TikTok, talking about you know, an enslaved woman and her son that were hung at the same time. He was I think he was like either 12 or 13, and you know, she was an adult. They, you know, they hung the mother and the child together, but they took pictures of it. So, you know, not only, so obviously if they want that evidence to show, they knew the truth that, you know, we can kill you no matter how true you are. So that's where that concept of strength and fear comes in, because that was wrong. That was wrong. That's why you took a picture of it, you know. And that's a thing that I think that most of us don't want to accept, is that we don't want to be found out later on. You know, yes, this is what I did back then, but now I'm changed. I'm a different person, but yet you still aren't admitting to it. You're saying,
Right.
yeah, it happened, but you're not, you know, stepping forward and allowing yourself to be accountable for it.
And as long as you don't acknowledge that, you're in bondage.
Yeah. You're not living in innocence. So you're really not strong. You're basing your strength based on something that's false.
Exactly.
But this is the, you know, I think this is the thing that I'm seeing that is really so beautiful here, is that we're able to see that these things are possible. You know, we can work on having a pure heart and a pure mind. We can work on that. That's something that's doable. It doesn't have to come from the outside in. Well, it's 6:27, y'all. Let's go ahead. You know, I am finding that these classes and these sessions are so in depth and so beautiful. So I want to thank y'all for that. So let's see. Let's do a round table real quick. Richard, can you hang in with us for a second or two?
Sure can.
So you want to start with roundtable? What did you get from today's class, and how can you apply it to your life?
Today's class, the big thing that I'm leaving today with is just, I rarely talk about innocence. And so to visit the idea of innocence as being a strength rather than a weakness is pretty powerful to me. But I think also the revelation that I had was just in thinking about how I navigate life. And, you know, one way that I could navigate life is with that type of childlike innocence and wonder and learning. I think that might be the key to kind of get rid of some ego stuff. So that's, you know, oh, and the only other thing is, Harry, I said that Jesus being the supreme deity for heart chakra. I wrote that down too.
How about you, Harriet? Thank you, Richard.
Well, this whole paragraph, just the thing that came into my mind, but the visualization that came to me was that piece of art called Peaceable Kingdom. If you're familiar with that, it shows a lion, a lamb, a child, and some other various animals all together in a very peaceful and tranquil setting. And my thoughts as far as that is concerned is, why can't we come to that point in this world where we are living in that way, learning to love and respect another person for how they view things, not necessarily ascribing to their viewpoint, but learning to acknowledge and respect how they think. Because how I think about something and how somebody else thinks about something is all based on our life experiences. And these experiences are going to be different with each one of us. So if I say that I don't want to have anything to do with X because I did have a bad experience, I can eventually get to the point where I can forgive, but I don't necessarily have to forget. So basically, my thoughts are, let us, as George, no, what's his name? Rodney King said, why can't we just all get along?
Thank you, Harriet. I think for me, the things I really got from this is, like the chapter is the innocent perception. I'm really, that was one of the things that we had, talked in depth about. What was it, Sunday, I think, in journal group. We talked about perception.
Yeah.
And at length. And I think that, it really takes a lot for me to sit back and pay attention to what I am perceiving. Some things do happen quickly, but if I am allowing myself to be habitually affected by how I'm seeing something, I'm not going, I will be able to perceive it more quickly through that. And now that here innocence proven as purity, that makes that, that's really big. This is kind of what we were talking about in the Gospel of Thomas on Saturday. I'm always amazed how these classes all fit in together. One of the things in the Gospel of Thomas was that, if the man eats the lion and the lion eats the man, the lion becomes the man. When we think about how, if I am allowing the strongest of my perception, which is the lion, if I'm allowing that to, feast on this human part, how am I allowing that to happen? Am I allowing that to happen through innocence because this thing needs to be eaten away and it no longer serves or provides for me? Or am I allowing the lion to eat into my flesh out of fear, so that I can hold on to an old perception and be comfortable in this, no matter what? So I think that this is one of the things that I have gotten from this class today, is just to pay attention to symbols, how I symbolize something and how somebody else symbolizes, and how do I respond within that communication, so that, yes, I'm going to be understood and you're going to be understood too. How do, where is that, how does that balance come about, and how do I stand in that balance? So this was a really good class for me today. It's very eye-opening. Let's see. Now this Saturday we have chakras. Yeah. Now we're not gonna meet at all tomorrow. Forrest called and said that he can't meet at 11, and Sarkina's not going to be in town, so there's nothing for tomorrow for Thursday. Excuse me, Harriet. You're gonna do the chakras, healing with the chakras on Saturday.
Yeah.
And tarot is going to be on the 9th. I really would like for us to get to this point where we are meeting in person in tarot, simply because you know, when you can see everybody else's card, you know, yeah, we can hold it up. There's y'all know there's a difference between, you know, in person and virtual, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's see if, you know, let's see when we can begin to make that happen.
Okay.
But on the 9th is from 2 to 4 for tarot. Andre is going to do the book of Enoch on the 10th. And I think he said he was going to let me know the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was on that. So I got to get up with him so I can find out what the time will be.
Okay.
We won't meet on the 15th because I'm having my family reunion, maybe on the 15th and the 16th. So that's going to be kind of open. Hey, Richard, I got the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 30th available. Oh, and I got 22nd, 29, 23, and 30 available if you want to do any session. I know you were talking about
what was that date again?
the 22nd and 23rd are available, and the 29th and the 30th of July.
Okay, let me take a look into my calendar tonight, and I'll shoot y'all an email.
Right.
Okay.
Richard, I don't have your information. I'm gonna put it in the text real quick. I'm gonna put mine in the text. Oh, I can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have your email address, so I can, when I email you, I can send you my
Oh, yeah,
phone
yeah,
number.
yeah. I do have your email address. Yeah, yeah. That's a good way. Yeah, yeah. We'll send each other, you know, that kind of information. Just let me know.
Okay.
So that's that for today. Today's session. Would anyone like to close us out in prayer?
I can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Unless anybody else has anything else to say or comment.
oh, don't forget to like,
Oh.
subscribe, like, and comment on our YouTube page.
Yeah, and I got
Innocent
Okay.
Inner
Okay.
Haven. Google Inner Haven and look for the green circle with the white letter I in the middle.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. Is that all now?
Yeah, yeah.
We ready to say goodbye?
Yep.
Let us let us close our eyes. Surround ourselves with a white light of love, peace, and protection. Inhaling all the positive energy that we can. Let it circulate through our cells, our bloodstreams. Infuse us with health and healing. And as we exhale, let go of all of the negativity and dis-ease that might be within us. Let us be grateful for the knowledge, the understanding that we have gained today, making us wiser and more Christ-like as we go about our daily duties and activities. Let us be appreciative and grateful for the inner haven that gives us the platform, the outlet to discuss and talk about our concerns and giving us a better understanding of ourselves and a different way of looking at those around us, giving us the love and understanding that is needed in order to make this a more peaceful world. And with that, I say, and so it is.
And so it is.
So it is.
All righty, everybody. Excuse
Bye
me.
all.
See you
All right.
Saturday. Love you.
All
Love
right. Love
ya.
you too.
Bye.